Think vet clinics are all about cute puppies and happy endings? Think again. Ever heard of someone using a paper stapler to close a dog's wound? Or tasting their dog's vomit to check for antifreeze? Yeah, things can get pretty wild. Hi, I'm Dr. Kathryn Dench, and in my nearly 20 years as a veterinarian, I've seen my fair share of questionable DIY pet care decisions. Some well-meaning, some downright dangerous. Today we're diving into some of the most horrifying veterinary stories shared on Reddit, and the last one in this video is shocking. We'll talk about what went wrong, why it happened, and how you can avoid making the same mistakes with your own pets. A dog came in for a broken front leg, and the owners opted to amputate. Luckily, I was at a non-profit, so the owners were able to be put on a payment plan. We did the amputation, the dog recovered just fine and went home. The dog was back 4 days later with a nasty infection. The incision had completely dehisced and the dog was in a lot of pain. The owners had taken it home after surgery and put it in the backyard, where the dog had rolled around in the mud, and it had been raining that whole week, and played with the other family dog. I can't imagine what was going on in their minds. We put the dog back under anaesthetic to clean everything, and my doctor had to remove a large amount of necrotic tissue. That's bits of skin and muscle that have died. The dog never woke up after surgery. It passed due to cardiac arrest in the EC 2 hours later. This story is heart-wrenching, and it highlights how crucial post-operative care is for our pets. After a major surgery like an amputation, it's vital to keep the recovery environment as clean and quiet as possible. In this case, allowing the dog to go outside, to be active in the mud and the rain, especially so soon after surgery, really put the dog at risk. You need to keep the surgery site dry and to limit your pet's activity. No rough play with other pets, and definitely no rolling in the mud. Otherwise, there's a huge risk of complications like infections or worse. Always remember, if you're ever unsure about what post-surgery care should look like, ask your vet team. The phrase, "keep him quiet for a few days," could mean different things to different people, so get into the specifics so that you have a clear plan. Personally, I recommend crate rest after surgery, but for families that don't have crates, I suggest that dogs be kept in a small, clean room and taken outside on the lead to the nearest part of the yard for toilet breaks. It's a struggle, I know, but it's not for long, and those blood vessels and stitches need that opportunity to heal. Owner decided to save a few bucks on a sedated groom for their incredibly aggressive papillon. Used normal scissors to cut a mat, 9-pound dog with a 4-inch hole in the side of her chest that they had slapped a band-aid over. It's really tough to hear about situations like this one. The owner tried to save some money by handling a grooming issue at home with their papillon, who was known to be quite aggressive, but unfortunately, while they're trying to cut the mat out with regular scissors, it resulted in a serious injury and left the dog with a large wound. In the long term, this is not only traumatic for the dog, but it will be even more expensive in treating this injury. Sometimes it's best to leave the professionals to do the grooming. You might think that you're saving money by doing it yourself, but situations like these end up costing you more. A client brings his dog in for suspected antifreeze ingestion. He says he induced vomiting at home and believed there was antifreeze in the vomit because he had tasted it and it tasted sweet. I can only imagine the look on my face when he disclosed that. Oh wow, that's definitely a moment that would leave anyone speechless. It's great that the owner was paying close attention and acted quickly when they suspected antifreeze poisoning, but tasting the vomit? That's a hard no. So for the record, yes, antifreeze is sweet, which is why pets sometimes ingest it, but it's also highly toxic, not just to animals but to humans too. If you ever think your pet has been exposed to antifreeze or anything toxic, the best thing to do is to get them to a vet immediately. We have tests that can confirm poisoning without the need for any taste testing, I promise. This is definitely one of those stories that makes you appreciate how much people care about their pets, but let's all agree to leave the diagnosing and testing to the professionals. There are much safer ways to figure out what's going on. I was working voluntary at one for a few months. We had a farmer bring in his pet dog. This is lengthy as well, but it looks like the dog got injured and needed surgery, and at that clinic the working dogs get a discount, but this dog was registered as a family pet, so that discount didn't apply. Farmer point blank refused to pay for it unless he had his 10%, his £30. That's about $40. So in the end, he paid for it to be put down instead. I found out in UK law that regardless that animals have rights, they still count as property of the owner. If they say euthanize and leave the animal in your care to do it and you don't do it, you can literally have your license taken away. So this story really hits hard, and it brings to light some of the ethical dilemmas and harsh realities faced in veterinary medicine. So here we have a situation where the farmer brings in his dog, which he considers a pet, yet is adamant about receiving the discount that's typically reserved for working dogs. The financial aspect becomes this critical point of contention, and it leads to a tragic outcome for the dog. The fact that the farmer chose euthanasia over paying the full price for surgery because of a relatively small difference in cost is deeply unsettling, and it illustrates how animals, despite being beloved pets, are still legally considered property in many places, including the UK. And this legal viewpoint can sometimes lead to decisions that prioritise financial considerations over the well-being of the animal. Typically, as veterinarians, we always try to look for every possible alternative before considering euthanasia, especially when financial issues are the main hurdle. We might suggest options like handing the animal over to a charity or even transferring ownership to the practice. This can sometimes help fund the treatment that's needed through welfare schemes or charitable support. However, if an owner insists on euthanasia, we must follow the legal and ethical guidelines, even if it goes against our personal beliefs. It's a really tough spot to be in, but we're always worried that if we refuse, the owner might take matters into their own hands, potentially in a way that's much less humane. It's one of the hardest parts of our jobs, trying to balance the professional responsibilities with our own ethical beliefs, and it's a daily challenge in our field. By the way, if you're interested in getting a holistic health routine going for your pets, whether it's to help them experience better calm, comfort, and happiness, I'd love to share with you something close to my heart. I've co-created Poor Origins to provide the best, cleanest and safest pet health solutions for our furry companions. It's something I use for my 3 rescues, Una, Dugong and Lemon, and it's been such a lifesaver for them. If you'd like to check it out, visit poororigins.com and use WELCOME10 for an additional 10% discount. For the past 2 years, I've been taking my dog to this pet hospital, and their typical system is to drop your dog off and then pick them up usually between 4 to 6 hours later. During this time, they perform any necessary testing and look out for any issues you've brought up. Once they're done, we get a quick phone call and then go and pick our dog up. I feel like I never really get to have a conversation with the vet addressing my concerns. Is this normal? They go on to describe a couple of examples. Their dog was vomiting and had diarrhea. The front desk say they'll run some tests, and then 6 hours later they just get a call saying everything's good. Or another time their dog was wobbly, and after 6 hours they were handed a pack of antibiotics for pancreatitis with no explanation. They go on to say, I know it's a dog, but it still feels invalidating. So the writer is asking, is this normal? And to me, this does not sound normal at all. I can completely understand the owner's frustration at the communication gap here. It's really important to have open communication between pet owners and veterinarians. Even if the initial system involves dropping off and picking up your pet, there should still be an opportunity for you to discuss your concerns and to understand the treatment that your dog is receiving. It's equally important from our side. We will have questions that we want to ask about what's been going on, and your answers could hold the key to us figuring out the diagnosis. Of course, during the pandemic, many clinics adopted drop-off systems to minimise contact, which might explain that initial shift, but this shouldn't prevent the vet from providing a thorough explanation of your dog's condition and the care that's been provided. A good approach here could be to express your need for more comprehensive communication directly to the clinic. Let them know that while you appreciate their efficiency, you would value a more detailed conversation about your dog's tests and treatments. There was an owner who stapled his dog's wound shut with a paper stapler, came in requesting pain meds and antibiotics. Don't worry, he bathed the dog with Head and Shoulders shampoo so the wounds were clean when he closed them. Needless to say, my doctor shut that plan down fast. We had to sedate, remove all the staples and suture them. This is shocking, and it's hard to believe someone would use a paper stapler to close a wound on a dog. You can see that the intention to help was well-meaning, including cleaning the wound with shampoo, but it will have done more harm than good. Using a paper stapler will cause significant tissue damage, increase the risk of infection, and not to mention the pain that it's causing to the animal. Fortunately, the veterinary team was able to address this correctly. They sedated the dog, removed the staples, and sutured the wounds under sterile conditions, which is the standard care for these kind of injuries. If you're ever in doubt out about how to care for an injury on your pet, it's always best to reach out to your vet right away. Owner came in for both of his new puppies having parvo symptoms. They were positive, but they also had wounds on their tails from the owner trying to remove them with string tied to them. So not only were they having parvo diarrhea, they were having parvo diarrhea straight into an open wound. One of their tails fell off during the exam. We were all a bit traumatized. So parvovirus is a nasty virus to handle even under the best of conditions. It's highly contagious and it can be devastating, especially for puppies. But what's really shocking in this case isn't just the parvo itself, it's what happened with the puppies' tails. Trying to dock tails at home using string isn't just dangerous, it's downright wrong. This kind of DIY approach will cause serious pain and lead to infections, and in this case it did exactly that. It's important to remember that any procedure, like tail docking, should only be done by professionals. Veterinarians have the right tools and the knowledge to make sure that it's done ethically, safely, and with the appropriate pain relief and anaesthetic. When these kinds of procedures are attempted at home without the proper setup and expertise, it can really harm your pet. Owner had an anxious cat with polyuria, which means that it's peeing a lot, concerned about a urinary tract infection. Read on the worldwide internet that asapromazine would help. Administered some of her dog since she already had it, but wasn't sure how much she got in the mouth, so gave some more. We'll never have an exact number, but best guess, average-sized cat got a minimum of 70 milligrams. Poor thing did not survive the event. This story really drives home the importance of seeking professional advice before administering any medication to your pets. So in this instance, the cat owner, who was worried about their cat's frequent urination, mistakenly used asapromazine, which is a strong sedative that was intended for their dog. They weren't sure about the dosage and they ended up giving their cat a far higher amount than is safe, and the cat died. I know there's a lot of information available on the web and it's so accessible. You can get there in 2 taps on your phone. But the problem is it isn't always accurate. And on a bit of a side note here, since so much internet content now is written by AI, which is itself trained on material that's on the internet, small inaccuracies can get multiplied out and suddenly the top 10 hits on Google are all saying the same wrong information. So when it's to do with pet health or medicines, always ask your veterinarian. Even if you have an animal medication like this lady did, they can have vastly different effects and dosages, which can be dangerous if not handled correctly. Owner came in and had their dog's leg wrapped with some homemade bandage after it sustained some sort of injury to the front leg. Can't remember if it was hit by a car or just a dog attack, but the problem was they decided to wrap the leg super tight with some sort of 3M Conan wrap and bandage tape. When we unwrapped the DIY bandage to assess the injury, the leg was pitch black. It took me about 5 seconds looking at it before realising it wasn't black electrical tape on this leg because it was that exact colour. Pretty sure the bandage was on for more than 1 day, and needless to say, we told them we had to amputate the leg at a bare minimum, if euthanasia wasn't on the table for the owner. Not sure what the outcome was, I'm pretty sure that the dog went to surgery and did okay afterwards. Wow, that's a tough situation. So the owner was obviously trying to help stabilise the leg and cover the wound, but sometimes our best intentions can have unintended consequences. In this case, the wrap was so tight, it had completely cut off the circulation to the leg. Black tissue is something you never want to see because it's a sign that the cells are completely dead. This story serves as a powerful reminder to all pet owners. If your pet is injured, avoid tight wraps and get them to the vet immediately. We're trained to handle these situations with the right techniques and can make a huge difference in outcomes by providing the appropriate care right from the start. Well, that was a ride. If these stories prove anything, it's that when it comes to your pet's health, Reddit is not your vet. Mistakes like these can lead to life-threatening consequences, which is why it's always best to check with a professional before trying any at-home treatments. For more real pet health tips, and maybe some more wild vet stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.